One of the cool, very powerful features of Microsoft Access reports is the ability to add totals or statistics, not just totals, but any kind of statistic to your report. Not just the entire report, but groups within the report. So you can create totals for every group, and Access makes this quite simple. So I'm going to open up my pizza orders database again. Okay, and I'm going to open up the report that I did in the first recording. If you weren't following along, then you'll just have to listen to this one. I'm using RPT Customer Orders 2. Open that in Design View. Actually, let's just open it so you can see that right now what we have is a list of each of the orders made by each of the customers, sorted by date with some formatting that I did before. I'm going to switch back to Layout View now because that's the easiest place to create these totals. So I'm going to switch to Layout View. Go to the Design tab, and in the Design tab is a Totals option. If you drop that down, you'll see the statistics that you can create. But how come sum and average and all the rest of them are commented out? I currently have my date field selected, so those are the only things we can do to dates is count the records or count the values. Not what I want. I want my total, order total, over here. So I'm going to select that and drop this down again, and now notice that all these statistics are available. I'm personally surprised that min and max aren't available for dates, but they're not. I'm going to add a sum, and now with excuse me, within each group, I have a sum that calculates the total for the number of order for all the orders for that person. This person only had one, so the total's in the same place. Now that isn't very easy to read. The downside of doing this in a blank report, and that's how I started here, is that you don't get a whole lot of formatting for you automatically. I'm going to show you before I'm done here how to do this with a wizard, and you'll see that a lot of this stuff is pre-formatted for you. One thing that does happen that makes this a little annoying is I removed in the first recording all the alternate row colors here, but now I've added a new row. Let's go to Design View, not a new row, excuse me, a new section, and in my report I now have a customer name footer section that wasn't there before. Every time, if you create a report using the wizards, every time you add a new section that wasn't being used before, it automatically gets that alternating row color. So I'm going to select the footer, go to Format, and remove the automating or the alternating row colors. Let me show you the other way to do that. You can use Format, and here's alternated row colors, and say no color. So you can go to Format and pull it from there, or you can pull it from the Format menu up here, either the Property Sheet or the Format menu. Both of those do the same thing. So now notice that I have two footers that were created. The first one is the customer name footer. So for every customer, I'm going to calculate their order. That's what I want. But also added is a grand total down at the bottom. It takes all of the data that we've entered in this report and calculates a total for that. Now, in some cases, that might be valuable. In this case, imagine if I have 5 years of pizza data here. That grand total of how much money I brought in at some point maybe doesn't make much sense. If the report was filtered, and you can do that, then these totals will update. If the report is filtered, that might be of some value. In my case, I don't want it, so I'm going to remove it. Could do this in Layout View as well, by the way. Select the field, press Enter, and to remove it, and then just simply bring this report footer back up so it doesn't take up any more room than it needs to. Okay, now we also saw that my order total was kind of bland, doesn't say anything, so what I want to do now is make a little bit of room. A very common thing to do with this is move it down using my arrow keys, add a line above it. So I'm going to Design View, and I'm going to add a line. I think this is the easiest way to do it. Just point in the upper left and click. That line's a little long, but now I can use my sizing tools. I'm going to select the total as well, right click and choose size. Remember, you can also go to the Arrange group up here, the Arrange tab, and do the same thing. Size to the narrowest, and it'll make my line the same size as my order total, and then I'm also going to right click and align them to the left. That way the two of them should line up, and now I have a line over my total. I think also want my total to be bold, so I'm going to go to the Format tab here and boldface it, and now let's take a look and see how things look. Much better. And now we've got a bolding here and there, but there's no label here. What should we call it? Well, the book often has you label it total, but what I would like to do is something the book doesn't talk about, is I want to add the label here that says this is Aikman, Emmett total. I actually want to take this value and copy it down here so that it's in the total, so particularly on these longer ones we can see who we're talking about. So that's something the book doesn't cover, so this is a little bit different. Going into design view again, over here I want to add a label, but it's not a label because it's calculated. Anything that's calculated using field values has to be done in a text box. So I'm going to add a text box to this, and we'll put it about here. It doesn't matter where it goes, we're going to end up moving it later. And I'll move it right now to start with, just to get it somewhere closer. Don't need a label for it because this actually is going to be a label. Then I'm going to create a calculated total for this. So I'm going to the data. I'm going to bring up my design view here. I'm going to bring up my builder. And I'm going to, what do I want to add here? I want to grab from the report, here's the report stuff, my customer name. If I can find it. Oh, I have to click on my report. There's the fields. Order total size, order date. Oh, that's a group total. The report header, the group header. What did I do different here? There's a calculated field. Maybe that calculated field doesn't have a name. So let's cancel this here real quick and click on this and say, what is your name? Access interval. That's weird. When I practiced this, I didn't have a calculated field, so now I'm paying the price. Let's make that a little bigger and see if we can find that in the list. Oops. Access interval control. Don't think I want to change it, but let's see if we can find that in the calculated field. One more time. If this doesn't work, I'll pause the recording, figure it out, and come back. There it is, the access interval control. I want that. And I want to concatenate to that the word total. Click on OK. And now this has that in there. And people's names are going to be different sizes, so I'm going to make this bigger, but I'm going to align it to the right. That way, regardless of how big it is, it should be right next to the order total. It can even move it over a little bit, and then align it in the format to the right. And let's see how well that worked. Well, except for the darn box, it looks pretty good. Here's the total. I wish there was a way to flip these around. The only way to flip those around is to add the first name and last name individually to the query, and then you can bring them in separately and concatenate them and do all that stuff. I think this is okay the way it is. So about the only thing I want to do is get rid of the border, and then I'll be all set. I'm going to go to layout view because I can do it there. Click this field, go to the format, and for the border style, say transparent. Now we can already see the results. It's just what I want it to be. Okay, so that's an example of how you can pull field data, particularly headers and footers, even though I got a little bit confused there. Header and footer data, you can actually pull it in and use it as part of your labels for the description here, but you have to use a text box. All right, let's save that. One last step is, what if you're using the wizard, like I recommend you often do when you're creating a report? What if you're using a wizard? Can you add it? And how do you add totals there? And I did include this, I believe, in one of the Unit 3 recordings, but I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to do the report wizard, and I'm using query customer report because it was selected, so that's cool. And I want the customer name, and actually I want everything, so I'm just going to send it all over. Next. When you use the wizard, Access automatically figures out that the customer name is one from one table and all the rest of this stuff is from another table, so it automatically creates a group for it. And you have the option of adding another group, but I don't want any more groups. And then you have the option of sorting. We did that by order, date, descending. All this stuff we had to do manually with a blank report, we can do pretty quickly. But now here's the key. How do we get the statistics in here? On this page, when you're doing your sorting, there's also a summary options button. To me, it seems like a ridiculous place. I miss it half the time because I don't feel right with it there. To me, that ought to be a different screen in the wizard, but it's not. So I click on summary options, and here's all the fields that I have that I can generate statistics for. Notice there's no way to generate counts here. So if we wanted to count the number of orders that each customer has placed, we can't do it using the wizard. I have to customize it and add a new field, adding totals to the report after we get done with the wizard. But for most of these, like the sum, we can do that right here. Click on OK. Next, I'll use outline mode next, and let's call this RPT wizard test, or wizard totals. Name doesn't really matter. I'm just going to look at it briefly. I'm not going to be messing with it much later. Finish. So using the wizard, and if I've taken out all of the learning exercises there, using the wizard, I can create this pretty quickly. And notice here's this, and here's the size, and why does the size have a box around it? I think I figured out in one of the early recordings, because this is actually a lookup, so it puts a box around it. I can delete that. I want to get rid of this, I can delete that. Notice all this other stuff, alternate rows. A lot of the layout is much easier this way than it was using the blank report. Which one you use is up to you. If you can figure out how to use the wizard to get to the reports that the book is asking you to create, you can use the wizard. There's really no way for me to tell that you use the wizard versus a blank report. So use either one, and you can save yourself some time by generating totals on the fly. But obviously there's still a lot of customization that needs to be done here.